Never ever, never ever forget my girls because they were happy. They loved people. People loved them, and they were just four girls that didn't deserve that. We didn't deserve it at all.
In the early morning hours of November 21st, 2016, in Flora, Indiana, a mother and her four young daughters had awoken to a tragedy. Unaware of what had just unfolded, the mother, Galen Rose, asleep downstairs, awoke to a wall of pitch black smoke. Unable to breathe, she couldn't reach her four children, who were asleep on the second story of the family's duplex. On the weekend of November 18th up until the 20th, just days before that terrifying tragedy would strike, the girls had a cheer competition, and on the 20th, the oldest, Kiana, also had a basketball game. And after this game, the family went to the store and quickly headed back home. Now, upon returning home, the family would prepare for dinner, and once that was over, the children would make their way upstairs for bedtime. On this night, the girls would go to bed at around 10 p.m., and their mother would go downstairs to her room, where she too would sleep. This is where things would take a turn for the worse, because at around 3 a.m., smoke filled the Flora home, and the girl's mother, Galen, would try and reach her children by running up the staircase, but ultimately unable to make it halfway before she fled and went outside to scream for help. Firefighters and officers arrived, but they too were unable to combat the intense fire. Neighbors also heard the screams of a distraught mother and screams come from inside the house and tried to assist in any way they could, and one neighbor that lived next door was actually an EMT named Angela Francis, who also attempted to help. Galen was told that her children had succumbed to the fire, and soon after that, she was sedated and airlifted to an Indianapolis hospital, where she would be listed in stable critical condition, and she would spend the week in the hospital. Eventually, the fire was put out, and the remains of all four young children were brought out. Two officers who were among the first to arrive were also injured and had smoke inhalation, would also spend time in the hospital, and a neighbor within the other half of the duplex would thankfully escape without injury in that tragic night. The girl's funeral would be held at a local high school, and grief counselors would be advised to all children who knew the girls, and a candlelight vigil was held within a Tuesday of that same week. After a few days of investigation, authorities could determine what exactly had caused the fire and had initially thought that it was caused by an electrical issue, as that is what the standard case is for a house fire, especially for an older home. The cause, even then, was undetermined, but 2 months after the events of that night, arson was ruled to be a case and cause of what was once considered to be an accident.
2016 fire and arson. But Galen Rose and her attorneys filed a federal lawsuit claiming that the stove in her apartment was partly to blame for that fire that killed her 4 daughters.
In May of 2018, Galen Rose's attorney filed a lawsuit against her landlords due to being negligent about non-working smoke detectors within her portion of the home and a back door with no lock. She also filed a product liability claim against Sears and Whirlpool due to the claims of an oven manufactured by Whirlpool and sold by Sears was the cause of the devastating fire due to it being defective. Though this part of the lawsuit was dropped in 2020 because it had been discovered that the stove was indeed not defective.
Over time now, people are starting to talk to us about that place, about that home, about the area around that home, what might have been some of the activities in and around that residence in the days, weeks, and months leading up to the fire. That's all good news because we're learning things that we didn't know before. And again, that's coming from what human beings are telling us.
A spokesman of the Indiana State Police Department, Doug Carter, stated that the family hasn't provided any critical information that could allow them to move forward in the investigation, stating that the investigation stalled due to lack of cooperation. Carter states that Galen spoke to investigators after the fire, but continuously avoids conversations with the investigators about who had access to the house, meaning they don't know any vital key points of interest to who may have been in contact with Galen and the home.
Down with us recently to discuss a totally different topic. But at the end of the interview, he agreed to take some questions about the Flora fire investigation. My first question got a quick, short answer. Is Galen Rose considered a suspect in this case? She is not. That's the first time we've heard that.
I worked hard for my baby.
Rose is the mother of the 4 girls killed in the November 2016 blaze. She has been the subject of persistent rumors in Flora that she may have had a hand in the fire.
Flash forward to present day, and Galen now resides in California. She stated that living in the area where her 4 children were killed haunts her. Specifically, driving through the street where the house still stands brings back that same nightmare over and over again. No leads have been discovered in this case yet, and every passing day seems to be getting farther and farther from the truth of what could have possibly happened inside or outside that house to take these 4 beautiful souls from this world. This concludes the video, and be vigilant and stay aware of your surroundings. 4 young girls, the oldest, Kiana, aged 11, Kiera, aged 9, Cariel, aged 7, and Kiani, aged 5. May they rest in peace and their memories be cherished.